Right now, in parts of the world, 9 out of 10 young people can't see clearly without glasses. Go back just a few hundred years, and almost no one needed them. The human eye didn't change. We did. So what exactly did we do to our own eyes? The answer isn't screens. Not really. It's something older and much stranger. To understand what happened, you have to go back to the world your eyes were actually built for. For almost the entire history of our species, being human meant living outside. Your ancestors woke with the sun and spent their days beneath an open sky. And out there, survival came down to one thing more than almost any other. Seeing far, a shape moving at the edge of the grassland could be tonight's meal, or tomorrow's predator. The hunter, who could tell the difference first, lived. So the human eye was shaped over hundreds of thousands of years into a remarkable instrument for distance. Eyes that could lock onto a flicker of movement across an entire valley. Eyes that spent their days focused on the far horizon, bathed in bright, natural light. And here is the part most people never hear. Your eye is not a fixed camera you are handed at birth. It is more like a living system, one that listens to the world around it and slowly shapes itself to match. For nearly all of human history, the world it listened to was wide and far and full of light. So what is nearsightedness? Really, when you look at something distant and it comes out blurry, it is not because your eye is weak or tired or worn out. It is because your eyeball has grown slightly too long. A healthy eye gathers incoming light and bends it into a sharp point, landing exactly on the retina at the very back. But in a nearsighted eye, the eyeball has stretched out, just a little, fronto bike. Now the light comes to its focus a hair too early, before it ever reaches the retina. By the time the image lands, it has already begun to blur. And that raises the real question. Why would an eyeball grow too long in the first place? Because growing is exactly what young eyes are supposed to do. A child's eye is not finished. It is still developing, still deciding how long it ought to become. And to make that decision, it asks, in a sense, what kind of world am I going to be looking at? Then it grows to fit the answer, which means if you change the world a child grows up looking at, you quietly change the shape of their eyes. And that is precisely what we did. For years, people blamed the wrong things. Some said it was simply genetics. Bad eyes run in the family. End of story. But genetics cannot explain what is happening, because the change has come far too fast. Our genes have not shifted in a handful of generations. Our lives have. Think of it this way. Genes may load the gun, but it is the modern world that pulls the trigger. Others blame the glow of our screens, the famous blue light. But the science there is far thinner than the headlines suggest. The problem was never that screens light up. The true culprits are quieter and far more interesting. The first is the loss of daylight. It turns out that bright outdoor light does something vital. It signals the eye to slow down, to stop stretching too long. Sunlight, falling on the back of the eye, acts like a brake on its growth. For 100,000 years, that brake was always on, because we were always outside. Then we moved indoors, into classrooms, offices, and bedrooms, lit by dim artificial light that is only a tiny fraction as bright as the open sky. And the brake came off. The second culprit is everything we now do. Up close, reading, studying, scrolling, hour after hour, our eyes locked on something just inches from our face. Remember, the eye shapes itself to the world it sees, and the world we now show it, for most of our waking hours, is small and close and dim. So the eye does the logical thing. It grows to match a near world. It becomes an eye built for the page and the screen, and it loses its grip on the horizon it was made for. It was never the light from the screen that reshaped your eyes. It was the distance and the darkness and the hours. If you want to see all of this in action, look at East Asia. In cities like Seoul, Taipei, and Singapore, something staggering has unfolded in just 2 generations. Among young adults, the rate of nearsightedness has climbed past 80%. In some groups, closer to 9%. Their grandparents, growing up in the very same places, carrying the very same genes, were mostly fine. What changed was childhood itself. Longer school days, more studying, more time indoors. Far less time beneath the sun. The genes stayed still. The world moved, and the eyes followed. Take a second and think about your own family. Count the younger ones who reach for glasses or contacts. Then picture the oldest faces at the table, the ones who grew up outdoors. Odds are, the difference is striking. I would love to see this pattern in real life. So tell me in the comments, how many people in your home wear glasses? But hidden inside that same story is a quiet hope. Because we understand the cause, we can push back against it. When researchers simply sent children outdoors for a couple of extra hours each day, the rising tide of new cases began to slow. No medicine, no surgery, just sunlight and distance and time under an open sky. The same conditions your ancestors lived in without ever giving them a second thought. So, let us come back to where we began. To the 9 in 10 young people who now reach for their glasses without hesitating. Here is the truth that no eye chart will ever show you. Your eyes are not broken. They never were. They did exactly what they evolved to do. They listened to the world you gave them, and they grew to fit it. The trouble is simply this. The world you gave them is not the world they were built for. You are walking around with a pair of Stone Age eyes, designed to scan distant horizons under a blazing sun. And instead they spend their days indoors, fixed on something close. That is not a flaw in you. It is a mismatch between a very old body and a very new world. And once you see it that way, the small things begin to make sense. Why stepping outside feels good for your eyes. Why lifting your gaze toward the far distance brings a quiet kind of relief. You cannot undo the modern world, but you can give your eyes, now and then, a glimpse of the one they were made for. A little more daylight, a little more distance, a little more sky. Because almost every part of your body carries a story like this one. A piece of you, beautifully built for a world that no longer exists. Your eyes are only the beginning. The deeper you look, the more you find that you were never broken at all. The world simply changed faster than you could follow. If that idea stays with you, subscribe and stay a while. There is a whole series here waiting, each one uncovering another part of the ancient body you carry into the modern day. We'll see you in the next one.